Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In one of the recent videos we were discussing the Rasi Drishti, which is the sign aspect, and in this video I want to cover the graha drishti, which is the planetary aspect, and how to analyze and count and interpret these aspects. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you'd like to be notified about similar videos in the future, please click the subscribe button with the notification on. So let's go straight to the video. So the graha loosely is translated as planet. We know that the sun and moon are not planets, but there are these karmic objects which are giving the karmic effects. Grahana means eclipse, which means eclipsing the mind. So the planets have a real influence on our mind and also our surrounding. And the aspects have to do with the influence. So the aspect is one part of the yoga. Yoga means action, and it's not the physical exercises here, but in astrology it means that there is some relationship between the planets. And basically we have three types of yoga. One is conjunction, which is called yuti. The other is drishti, which is the aspect, and the third is the parivartana, which means the exchange of the signs. So when it comes to aspect, we have the planetary one and sign one. The planetary is graha drishti, the sign aspects are the rasi drishti. So these yogas, which is the relationship between planets, they are like chemical reactions, so they are giving the particular results. So for example, we know that Venus, Saturn, Ketu is the tapashvi yoga. It can give very renounced person. We have the famous Mars Venus yoga, which can give many relationships, because this is the bahu stri, many spouse yogas, as they call it in the Sanskrit. So this Mars and Venus, if they have the yuti or aspect of parivartana, this can bring such results. So it is very important to be able to calculate graha drishti, because otherwise we are missing so many yogas in the chart. Also, we can see, for example, the yogas which are formed between the lordships, like for example the fourth house, fourth lord and fifth lord, they are forming the lordship yogas. For example, the ninth lord and 10th lord is the famous dharma karma dipati yoga, which can give the career which is related to either universities or being very international, very worldly, very big. When it comes to calculation, the first thing which we need to understand is that all planets are aspecting the seventh house from them except Ketu. So Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Rahu will all aspect the seventh house from their placement. And this kind of aspect is called kama drishti, which is like a desire. We have desire, and because of that desire, the influence is there, the relationship is formed. Of course, Ketu doesn't have any aspect, because when Ketu would have aspect like a Rudra, then it would cause a big destruction. Also, we know that Ketu has no head. This is related to a Ganesha, whose head was also cut off by Shiva when he was guarding the Parvati, as the Parvati was taking a bath. And similarly, the Ketu, also being the moksha karaka, the mukti karaka, the significator of liberation, doesn't have head, because the head is, as they say, the seat of desires. And therefore, because the eyes, the drishti, the aspect is related to our eyes, so the Ketu has no drishti. At least not the graha drishti. It has Ketu, can have the rasi drishti, which is the sign aspect. So in this regard, we have to see the all planets having the seventh house drishti from themselves. Then there are Antara planet and the Bhakya planet. Antara means internal and Bhakya means external. So all the planets which are external to Earth, which are like going slower than the Earth, which is the Jupiter, Saturn and Mars, they will all have additional aspects, or also Rahu, and these aspects we will now clarify. So first, starting from Mars, we know that Mars is aspecting the fourth and eighth house from its position. So for example, if you have Mars in seventh house, it will aspect 10th and second house, because 10th is the fourth from 7 and second house is the 8th from 7. So Mars is always aspecting fourth and 8th houses from its placement, except the seventh house. So we have now 3 houses which are aspected by Mars, always 7, and then additionally 4 and 8. Similarly for Jupiter. For Jupiter, it's always 7, so this is the standard for all planets except Ketu, and then we have the add to 5th and 9th. So for example, if you have Jupiter in the 5th house, it will also aspect the 9th house, because it's 5th from its position, and also will aspect the Lagna or Ascendant, because it's a 9th from the 5th. So Jupiter will always aspect the 5th and 9th from its position, additional to the 7th house, which all planets aspect except Ketu. And for Jupiter, it is very important to understand that these drishti are related to seeing the future, because the 5th and 9th are related to this timeline, as we could say. So Rahu and Jupiter, they are aspecting 9th and 5th houses. So they are blessings or giving curses. So therefore these aspects. Then we have Saturn. Saturn drishti is the 3rd and 10th houses, and this is upachaya drishti. This is about the growth, because Saturn wants us to grow. And similarly Mercury. Mercury and Saturn, they are the upachaya karaka, they want us to grow. And 3rd and 10th houses are the upachaya houses, they are the growth houses. So Saturn will always aspect the 3rd and 10th from its position. For example, if you have Saturn in the 9th house, then it will aspect the 11th, because 11 is 3rd from the 9, and it will also aspect the 6th house, because 6th house is 10th from the 9, and additionally always will aspect the 7th house from its position, because all planets except Ketu aspects the 7th house from their position. So that is for Saturn. Then we have the last planet, which is the Rahu. Rahu, like Jupiter, will aspect 5th and 9th from its position, and also additionally we have the 2nd house aspect. So then we have 4 types of aspects for graha drishti, which is the planetary aspect of Rahu. So Rahu will aspect 7th house from its position, then 5th and 9th, which are related to this timeline, Rahu giving curses. And then we have the 2nd house aspect, because it's related to 12th house in reverse. So Rahu wants us to be always reborn. So 12th house is about either being reborn or having a mukti, being liberated. So Rahu being in the opposite periphery to this liberation and being in bondage will promote us being reborn, therefore giving us tenfold desires, because Rahu has 10 heads. Rahu will aspect therefore the 2nd house from its position. Also we know that Rahu was commander-in-chief and was fighting with Mars, and Mars get help of Vishnu. So if one is ruled by Mars, then he should always go to Vishnu. Vishnu will always help those people. And also the Rahu neck was cut off, so this is to do with 2nd house, therefore also the drishti on the 2nd house. And basically the 5th and 9th, they are showing the purva punya, so this is the karmic balance we have from the previous life. Therefore Rahu and Jupiter, they are distributing this. Either we have punya or we have papa, which is either some good karma or bad karma. Rahu is also the root cause of desire, therefore his 7th graha drishti aspect is very strong, it's a full aspect. These are the main aspects. Just to conclude, Mars will aspect 7th house as a standard aspects, then 4th and 8th, then Jupiter will aspect standard 7th house, then 5th and 9th. So Saturn will aspect the regular 7th house from its position, then 3rd and 10th. And Rahu will aspect the 7th house from its position as standard for all planets except Ketu, and then 5th, 9th, and 2nd houses from its position. So for example, let's say you have Rahu in the ascendant, in the Lagna, then Rahu will aspect 2nd house, 5th house, 9th house, and 7th house. Let's say you have Rahu in the 6th house, then it will aspect 2nd house from its position, which is 7th, will aspect 5th house from its position, which is 10th, will aspect the 9th house from its position, which is 2nd house, and also will aspect the 7th house from its position, which is the 12th house. So in this way, we have all the aspects. So Mars 4 and 8, Jupiter 5th and 9th, Saturn 3rd and 10th, Rahu 2nd, 5th and 9th. And of course, all planets aspects the 7th house from its position. Ketu doesn't have any planetary aspect. So this is basically all what you need to know about the graha drishti or the planetary aspect calculation. So now a little bit about the difference about the Rasi Drishti and Graha Drishti. Rasi Drishti is more about the jnana, which is the knowledge. So we say that it's more static, it was always there. While the Graha Drishti is more about Icha Shakti, which is related to our desire. So in timing, Rasi Drishti was always there, and Graha Drishti is like a desire. So it appears. Graha Drishti therefore is used in timing very much because it shows when the things are appearing in our life. Of course, we are talking about the full aspect, which is the Purna Drishti, because in Graha Drishti we also have the partial aspect, which is called the Pada Drishti. For example, then the Upachaya Drishti is the Shudra Drishti, the 7th house aspect is about the Vaishya Drishti, the 4th and 8th is about Kshatriya, and 5th and 9th is about Brahmana. So they are also related nicely to Varnas, and they have some percentage. And for various planets, this Drishti will have a different contribution. For example, for Saturn, this 4th and 8th aspect has 50% power, and for Mangal, 3rd and 10th aspect has 30% power. So we are using that in curses because it is a situation when one planet is afflicted by at least 2 malefics. So for this we have to analyze either Yuti, which is a conjunction, aspect, which is drishti, or kartari. So we need to know the drishti to be able to see which planet is cursed in our chart, or which planet is influenced by at least 2 malefics. So for example, let's say we have Venus in 7th house, then if Mars is in the 4th house, it will aspect that Venus. And let's say we have Saturn in the 5th house, then we know that Venus in 7th house is aspected by both Saturn from 5th and Mars from the 4th. And then we know, oh, this can be a curse because it's afflicted by 2 malefics. So curses are very important to analyze because they show the source of suffering, what are the areas in our life which are always the source of troubles for us. So for curses, we need to employ the Graha Drishti, which is the planetary aspect. So this Graha Drishti or the planetary aspect, they belong to kind of basic learning, but it's very fundamental because without Graha Drishti, without analysis of which planet is aspecting which, we cannot really see which planets are afflicted and what yogas are formed in the chart. So it's very central knowledge. We are using this in every chart analysis. So because Graha Drishti has to do with desires, it's very important in all matters when desire is important. Therefore, it is a vital or central part of the curse, because you need to have some desire, bad desire, to curse someone. So it basically shows what the planet wants. While Rasi Drishti is more like a Vastu, it's more like how the specific distribution of energies or planets in the chart, how they affect, is like Feng Shui. The Rasi Drishti shows more about resources and about Jadatma, which is the inanimate object, and Graha Drishti has to do more with people and the desires, the Icha Shakti. I hope this helps you in understanding how we calculate Graha Drishti and what is the usage and meaning of that. If you find this video interesting and informative, please click the like button, subscribe for more, and see you in the next one.